Hello everyone, I am Abhishek and today I am in conversation with world's leading fashion photographer Tarun Khiwal. Hi Tarun.
Hi, how are you?
Absolutely fine Tarun, how are you?
Thanks, very good, thank you.
So Tarun, as far as I know and a lot of photographers who follow you know that you started, you got an engineering background. So coming from an engineering background and then polishing yourself as one of the best fashion photographers in India, could you just share your journey from being an engineer and how it transformed into becoming the best photographer probably in this field?
Well, it so happened that I was in Lucknow when I was a kid, and I was studying, and that is the time. Probably in 8th or 9th class, I got the camera. My dad gave me a camera, and before that, I was into making some sketchings and drawings and stuff like that. What I realized was that when I got the camera, I realized that that was the best way for me to express myself. And it was fantastic for me to just pick up the camera and start shooting portraits of people. I love people. Before that, I was a very shy kid. So I realized when I got the camera, I just opened up completely, and people around me also, they opened up. So I thought that this is the very, very amazing way for me to just go into other people's life and just explore them completely.
Right.
It was like a passport given to me that I can enter other people's life and just dig them out, and so it was quite amazing for me. So it all started from there, and then I never thought that I'll do photography as a profession, but slowly my interest was just going up. So by the time I finished my studies, I was really uncomfortable with what I was doing as a job. And 8 months I was in my job, and in 8 months' time, I just realized it was just not working for me. So my technical director called me from the company, and he said, your work is good, but your mind is just not there. So he gave me a book, but he was very, very close to me also. Right. So he gave me the book called The Magic of Thinking Big, and he said, you just read that, maybe this will clear your mind. So I read the book, and I gave him the book, and I gave him my resignation. My job is over, and that's how it's all.
I just wanted to ask you how studies are important, be it any kind of studies. Like you've done your engineering, and engineering is like good 4 years. Was it helpful any which ways as a photographer for you to?
When I bought many lights, many kind of, in the very beginning, and I used to just break them and make them according to myself. I did a lot of modification in my lighting. I was doing it myself. I was using various forms actually, and reflective forms and all that, and I was making my own reflectors and my own soft boxes, stuff like that. So I did that quite a lot. So it came in handy actually.
So that's the reason you are into what we call experimental fashion photography.
Yes, I guess so.
Okay, great,
yes.
Great.
Yes.
Tarun, tell me one thing. Just wanted to know out of curiosity, and a lot of photographers, as I told you, are following you over Facebook and various other platforms. What are your memories about when you picked up the camera for the first time?
It was very magical for me. It was quite amazing that that moment is captured now. It's not gone forever. It's with me now.
So Tarun, based on your experiences you shared, my next question is almost similar to that. Being into photography, I've seen the world of fashion photography and overall photography growing like anything. And there has been a lot of softwares and a lot of gizmos that are now linked with the cameras and photography industry. And there are a lot of people who perceive that you just have to click the image and rest we can do in post-processing, and there are a lot of manipulations also happening. But how do you see this whole fashion photography growing as compared to where you started and now where you are right now?
I would say it's very, very young photography because it is coming from West, and there is a lot of information about new Photoshop and many other gizmos. Obviously, it is working beautifully in some cases, in some cases it goes wrong. Technology comes with this kind of problems. There were people, those who had good vision, but they were not able to bring it on print. Now they can. So there is enough for us to learn from all of them also.
Right, exactly.
So I think it's very exciting time right now.
Okay. Tarun, fashion imagery is something that we all look up to you for fashion photography, and all the budding photographers and professional photographers idolize you as a leading fashion photographer. I would love to shoot like anything and everything that probably inspires me to grab a good picture.
Yeah.
Apart from fashion, what all genres you are interested in, if any?
Well, I started as a portrait photographer. I was more keen in shooting portraits. It's just that I'm more famous for fashion photography, but I do a lot of portrait photography, portrait photography. You know, street for myself, not just for the sake of shooting on street as a street photographer, but for inspiration. I think, you know, the real inspiration comes from daily life. So whenever I'm traveling, I just try and shoot a lot on streets. I won't say I study, but I just keep an open eye on people's behavior, the way they talk, the way they move. So all that is very, very important for me, just to bring in a little reality in terms of, even if it's fashion photography, you know, I just try to bring in a little reality into it.
You know, these days various kind of genres coming up which probably we even never heard of, like HDR photography and landscape photography and macro photography, and as I told you, environmental portraits, street portraits, and you know, be it any kind of photography. When it comes to Tarun Khiwal, and when you are getting inside your studio or anywhere for a professional shoot, what kind of equipment and gears you love to carry along with you?
Well, a 35mm format is the best format actually, you know, in terms of portability and, you know, how comfortable you are. You can just pick up the camera and just start shooting.
Right.
So it gives you access to your camera. Like immediately you take it out, you can keep it on your shoulder, and so you don't miss out the shot. That is one thing. And so 35 is always very, very, very favorite of mine, 35 format. Otherwise, I think 35, 50mm, 85mm is my favorite.
If I buy my first Nikon DSLR and if I come to you as a student and I ask you share some tips so that I can start clicking good images, what would be those tips like? If you can share some of those tips.
But first thing I will do is I'll just shut down all the automatic settings. I'll shut it down. I'll ask them to go to manual and start shooting manually. You know, my favorite Nikon camera was FM2. You know, so you know, when you're deciding everything of your own, that is when you're creating the picture. First, you have to decide that this is how exactly I want, and the camera needs to shoot exactly like that. Okay, that is first step of doing good photography, that you are taking control. I'm excited about this thing, that they are at least shooting pictures. Many people are shooting pictures, but you know, if they know that why that picture is coming out like that, if they start putting their thoughts onto it, that'll be much better. That'll be one step ahead of like where they are right now. Right now, whole lot of people, those who meet me, they come and show me the pictures, and then I tell them, you know, look at this, that you've created something, but you don't know about how you've created that. How about knowing it? So to know, you'll have to go to manual,
right?
And that is when they get excited.
Tarun, you said that your first camera was Nikon FM2, right? And today you are holding one of the most advanced Nikon DSLRs in your hand. How do you perceive technology, you know, from the start of the digital era till now, and since you're using these advanced camera system now, how do you see technology?
The difference is just too huge. You know, earlier when we used to shoot, you know, there was no tethered technology. When it came, when you shoot, the image used to take too much time to load. Until and as the image is loaded, you can't click the second picture.
Exactly.
Now it's super fast. It's like a rocket, you know. So you just keep shooting it, just keep coming on the thing. Second thing, the dynamic range has increased completely. Like it's so amazing that the kind of information we get digitally in a raw image, you know, from the earlier time when it just started, the difference is just too big. Too much information.
So as compared to, you know, previous cameras in the past, so you're enjoying these cameras?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Makes your task easier, or
yeah, it does.
Because you know, a lot of people come with these advanced cameras, and by seeing the buttons and menus and all those things, they all get confused, and they think they have done some big mistake in buying these cameras and stuff. But how do you see these cameras? I mean, in terms of operations, if I ask you.
It's very good for newcomers, those who can start with manual and try and explore these settings. You know, because a lot of times you're in a situation when you don't have that much time to get into exposures and all that. And that is the time these kind of cameras come in very handy. You know, because they have their own mind and you can just set it on that setting and you're just focusing to capture that moment. especially for war photographers or people those who
Journalists
do
or,
journalists and all that, they don't have that much time that they'll set exposures and all that. So that way these are like supercomputers. So I would say this kind of technology comes in very handy when you're shooting in these kind of situations.
Tarun, what do you like to say to those aspiring fashion photographers? Any tips you want to share with aspiring fashion photographers?
Well, there are a whole lot of them, those who assist many photographers. And what I see, there is a little trend that, when they leave the photographer, the one they are assisting, they just live in the shadow of that photographer for a very long time. They do the work which is like them, and that is the way they will never become, someone special. They will be always known as part two of that photographer. So the best thing you can do is, as soon as you can come out of the shadow of the photographer you worked with. This is going to happen when you work with someone for 3-4 years. The first time when you will shoot, first few times you will shoot, there'll be a tendency of going their way. But then quickly, with all that information and all that knowledge you've gained, you need to bring in your own sensibility into it and make it different from what he's doing.
Exactly.
And that is the way you can become like him or better than him. That's the only way.
Creating your own style.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Otherwise, you will just, you're just doing exactly what he's doing, and that takes little time, and you'll have to put a serious thought to it to do that. It's very, very important.
Tarun, thank you very much for sharing your experience
My
within this short span of time.
My pleasure.
And I believe a lot of aspiring photographers and fashion photographers must have got some really valuable tips and information from your end.
Thank you.
Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Pleasure.
you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.